made a rake of JNA wagons. Stay tuned and all will be revealed. Well, yes, that's right. I have made a whole rake of JNA wagons just there. There are 11 altogether. And I also took the Hornby Railroad one and did some bits to it. So all that's to come.
Yes. Now, I know I showed the wagon in the previous video and you may have had a chance to watch that. But that was like the first iteration of the model. And whilst some bits have stayed the same, there are some other bits which have changed quite dramatically. And I really just wanted to give you an idea of how I've gone about it. Now, it's not so much, hey, look at me, what a wonderful job I've done. This is a possibility for anybody. And yes, I have used both technologies in 3D printing. So obviously this piece here is filament printed, and you can see from the back there, you obviously get that. Sometimes you get that little roughness on the back where it sits on the print bed, or if I put it on a raft, but that is absolutely fine, and that is tough. So that's good for that. But other parts, like for example this, are resin printed, and you get the characteristic lumps on the back there which have to be filed off because that's where all the supports go, the little tree supports. But I've done that because the resin produced these holes in a much better way than what the filament did. But you can also see, if I show you some of these different parts, so you've got, there's the buffer beam there, and I simplified the hook, as you probably have realised there. So just a plain hook there, and also reduced the vacuum pipe or air hose. I'm not sure quite what that would be, but I managed to put those railings or handles just underneath the buffer beam, underneath the actual buffer there as well. You know, hopefully you can see those. They're painted white on the model. I'll show you that shortly. But then obviously this part was one of the main intricacies, as I've showed before. Yeah, it has buckled up a bit, but once it's glued onto the actual model, and that will glue onto there, it just sits flat and it's not a problem at all. But I'm amazed with the resin that you can get so many fine parts there. I mean, even these hooks just there, and there's another one there. You know, I mean, I have broke a few of those off, to be honest. It's so delicate. But, I mean, this part, this is one of the main chassis, and that's filament printed. Now, you might be thinking, what's going on here with these three sections? I've removed one, and you can see that it's the same there. So once all these parts are removed, that produces some cavities, and then that's glued quite like that. But I've got these wheel weights that's sitting there. On the first one, I did put 3 in, adding extra 30 grams to the model, and then decided that 2 would probably be sufficient because it is a heavy, but it is a heavy. I'm really pleased with the way that has turned out there, and you can even see the little springs there. Once the wheels are in, they do spin very, very freely. And there has been a couple of occasions where it's literally rolled off the surface, if you like, and come to its doom. And one of these arms has literally broken off, which obviously means that potentially that particular bogie is then done for. But what I've done is created these little parts, and that sits in there like that, yeah. And then for the coupling, because you might remember I talked about the box, and this is just fresh off the printer, so all that would need filing out, but that would sit in that end like that. So if it does drop to its doom, that is considerably stronger than what it would be without. And obviously these angle pieces are glued all the way around, would go in there. As I said, that bit needs filing out, and then a pin go through that hole just there. It's struggling to focus a bit, isn't it? There it is, that hole just there. How do I attach it to the actual wagon itself? Well, I've resin printed these little pins, which sit kind of over there like that, and then the bogie sits on over the top, kind of, if I can do it without everything flopping all over the place, kind of like that. And there is a nice amount of play in there just to make that work. And then I just get a piece of plastic card and then glue it on. I hope if I can get it stuck inside my fingernail, but the little wheel on both sides of the bogie, it's not focusing particularly well, but you know, you're looking probably around about 7mm for that. It's in diameter. But there is one big problem, and that is wheels. And they are incredibly expensive. In fact, I'm using 12.6 Hornby wheels. Apparently Bachmann do some, but nobody seems to have any. And Dapol did make wheels, and they've stopped for whatever reason that might be. I don't know. But so the only wheels that are readily available are the Hornby ones, and the cheapest I've seen them is £19, and they range up to about £24 for 10. So it doesn't take much to work out the fact that mine cost £8.80. No, sorry, £2.20 per wheel. So, you know, £8.80 per wagon. And you obviously need 4 of those per wagon. So that's the most expensive part, which then knocks the model up to around about just short of a tenner. I nearly forgot to say, actually, with regard to the graphics all down the side, what I did was I took a photograph of the Hornby Railroad model, each particular section one at a time, blew it up so obviously get the best resolution, and then just printed off my own. Yeah, the colours are wildly off there, but at the end of the day I just put them on and just painted it around with a darker blue. Incidentally, the dark blue does look a little bit on the pale side compared to the Hornby one and the this case the 60 just there, but that is the colour I've seen on many photographs that I've looked at of these wagons. Now it might be that I'm just seeing the wagons in a very high bright light situation, but I've painted them according to what I've seen. I might be wrong, and they might actually be that colour in reality, but I'm happy with the way they are looking. They are going to be weathered down at some point, and I am going to be filling them up with wagon loads with ballast. So they will be dirtied up and yeah, made to look a little bit more used, if you like, but I'm happy with them as they are. Okay. So obviously this is the Hornby Railroad version, and it's made up from, obviously you got the bottom part, the top part is all one piece, plus the bogies, and then you obviously the wheels and the coupling hooks. And I reckon, you know, it's made quite cheaply for a reason. I've got this Hornby Railroad one here, and there are some significant differences, but there are some bits that are the same. So what I do want to do is replace these bogies with the bogies that are running with this one, which these, as you've seen many times before, and I'm going to put these pegs on here, so they'll just come off, if I can do it with one hand, of course, like that, and then glue one of these pegs onto that, and then I can put these new bogies on there like that, and they will sit at the right height. Well, as you can see, I've got the Hornby Railroad wagon here, and it's changed quite a bit. First of all, I sprayed the inside with a white primer and then painted it orange. This here is a false floor with the 2 divots for the wheel weights, so it's considerably heavier than what it once was. And then I've put a lip running around the outside all the way around, so it'll be easier to paint the darker colour around there, just like I've done on the other wagons. But the biggest change is the bottom. So from the previous video, I put it up against the disc sander and I literally sanded off all of that subframe because it wasn't correct. And what I've done is 3D printed another one. Okay, now just realised And you know, I do get it wrong sometimes, but I haven't made it to the edge. But I did make another one prior to this without these extra bits on the end. So what I'm going to do is just cut a bit off that, glue it on the end, then get it painted up. And then I've got space here for the wheels, and also with a little bit of modification I can put that on there as well. It's not quite perfect, or it's not quite going to be the same as the others, but you know, from the sake of it running around, I think it'll be absolutely fine. Right, so there it is. That's have had all the detail fitted now. So I am holding this upside down because the bogies will fall off, but the new buffer beams on the ends there, both ends. And also the most obvious thing is obviously this extra detail in the middle here. Now, because the spacing on these bars is ever so slightly different to the ones I've made, I've had to modify this ever so slightly. So the eagle-eyed amongst you might notice a few breaks in it and things like that. But am I worried by it? Not at all, to be honest. And, you know, I think it'll be absolutely fine once it's on the layout. Hopefully holding that in place. I can't move my thumb, can I? Maybe a little. And so obviously once that's all been repainted, and I'm going to paint it the same colour as this, so hopefully be able to mix up a similar colour to that. So there it is then. That is the Hornby Railroad, massively upgraded. I think just having the orange inside makes a huge difference, if nothing else. And obviously the bogies with the wheels on, and obviously all that detail now underneath. Now, what I did have to do though, and I'm not going to show you because it is a mess, that I found out that it was sitting far too high, probably by about 3mm. So at this, under the bogies, I had to really file down all that chassis detail that I'd put in. So the only chassis part that's left is the bit in the middle where the 3D printed pipes are, and tank and that sort of thing. But got it to sit quite a lot lower now. But then the other problem I had was that the wheels were catching the underside of the chassis. So I then had to go in with the Dremel and sort of grind out a groove for the wheels to run in. So it is running a lot better now, as you can see. I didn't give that much of a push, but you can see there, can't you? So I'm happy with that, but let's have a look at the rest of the train. Here we come. There are 11 wagons, 10 that I've made myself, and the one Hornby one which has had the conversion, if you like. And I have to say, I'm so happy with the way they're looking. Now, obviously, if you looked closely to each one, you'd probably pick out all the imperfections, but when it's running around your layouts, you don't notice. And they have cost me, as I said before, around about a tenner to make. And that's mainly because of the wheels. And I would say the actual 3D printed parts, probably around about £1 for each one, give or take, maybe a bit less than that, to be honest. Have I had any issues? Well, a few, mainly derailments, and that has been caused by either stiff couplings, stiff bogies, or stiff wheels in the sockets. So it's a case of just going through and loosening things up. Bogies and couplings need to be completely free and allowed to move in any and every direction, and then you get free running trains, no problems at all. But I'm very, very happy with those. But as I said before, the main part of doing this is to show you that you can. And yes, I've used the 3D printer to do these, or resin and filament, taking the best of both worlds. So if you've got that technology, there's nothing stopping you whatsoever from having a go at doing your own. I mean, Mark from Model Railway Fantasia, I think he's called, made a whole range of wagons, and good luck to him. You know, I think he's selling them now, and there's certainly a few people taking advantage of those. I know Alan from Dragon Junction did, Dino did some,
And I think the chap from, I can't remember his name now, he's got a layout based in the 1990s, I think it is. A lot of electrics, Woodhill Park maybe. But he took advantage of some of those as well. And, you know, I think it is the way forward, as many people have suggested as well. These wagons have come in at a tenner, and if you were to buy the Revolution Trains ones, you're looking, I think, £40 odd each. It doesn't take long to work out how much that's going to cost you for a rake of 10 or 11, you know, well into £400 there, and that's not something I can afford, to be honest with you, and I know many other people couldn't afford that. So the point is, you don't have to, you can make your own. And I mean, even if you haven't got the 3D printing technology, DAP will do a range of wagon kits, and I know some other people do wagon kits as well. You know, and they're not that expensive. I think I bought those press flows for about a tenner. So, you know, you can do that for an awful lot cheaper than what you can buy commercially. Anyway, I think I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you've enjoyed it, seeing how these wagons were put together and made. And I will catch you again very, very soon here on Piccadilly Eastway. Take care of yourself. Bye for now.